Aw shit, it's Monday. Tom woke up to the sound of his alarm clock blaring in his ears. He groaned and reached for the snooze button, but missed and knocked the clock off the nightstand. He heard it shatter on the floor, but he didn't care. He pulled the covers over his head and tried to go back to sleep. He hated Mondays. He hated his job, his boss, his co-workers, his commute, his apartment, his life. He wished he could just stay in bed forever and forget about everything. But he knew he couldn't. He had bills to pay, deadlines to meet, responsibilities to fulfill. He had no choice but to get up and face another miserable day. He dragged himself out of bed and stumbled into the bathroom. He looked at himself in the mirror and winced. He had dark circles under his eyes, a stubble on his chin, and a pimple on his nose. He looked like a mess. He turned on the faucet and splashed some water on his face, hoping to wake himself up. He reached for his toothbrush, but it wasn't there. He searched the sink, the cabinet, the floor, but he couldn't find it anywhere. He remembered that he had thrown it away yesterday, after he had discovered that his girlfriend had used it to clean the toilet. His girlfriend, who had cheated on him with his best friend, who had dumped him by text message, who had taken all his stuff and left him with nothing but a dirty toothbrush.
Aww. So sad.
He felt a surge of anger and sadness as he recalled the events of the previous day. He decided to skip brushing his teeth and headed for the shower. He turned on the knob and waited for the water to get hot. But it didn't. It stayed cold as ice. He checked the faucet and saw that there was a note taped to it. It read,
"Sorry, Tom. I had to turn off the water heater. It was making a weird noise and I didn't want to risk a fire. I'll call the plumber tomorrow. Love, Mom."
Mom. The only person who still cared about him. The only person who still let him live with her after he had lost his job, his apartment, his girlfriend, his dignity. The only person who still tried to cheer him up and make him feel better. He felt a pang of guilt as he realized that he hadn't talked to her in days. He had been too busy wallowing in self-pity and misery to notice her efforts. He had been too rude and ungrateful to appreciate her kindness. He decided to take a cold shower anyway and endure the discomfort. He thought it might help him clear his head and shake off his bad mood. He stripped off his clothes and stepped into the tub. He screamed. There was a snake in the shower. A big, black, venomous snake that was coiled around the shower head and ready to strike. Tom jumped out of the tub and ran out of the bathroom, naked and wet. He slipped on the floor and fell hard on his back. He hit his head on the edge of the door and blacked out. The last thing he heard before losing consciousness was the snake's hiss. And then he woke up. He woke up to the sound of his alarm clock blaring in his ears. He groaned and reached for the snooze button. But he missed and knocked the clock off the nightstand. He heard it shatter on the floor. But he didn't care. He pulled the covers over his head and tried to go back to sleep. He hated Mondays.